So the first part is pre-product companies, right? So figuring out,
Yeah.
making sure the problem really exists and people, it's a big enough problem and people want to pay for it, right? The other part is, when you have your product ready, right? So you got your product, you've launched to the market. Now what, right? I think the single most important problem that everybody should be looking at is product market fit, because of course money is important. Of course, like, you got to have some capital to to stay alive, and for you to go out there and tell that that you exist and get some customers and so on and so forth. But the single most important problem is product market fit, because I feel when you have that figured out, I think everything else falls in place, whether it is capital or whether it is hiring or whether it is customers. Everything falls in place, right? And what I mean by product market fit, I mean, Andreessen Horowitz from A16Z, right, talks, about it very well. And, I would just tell, for anybody who wants to know more about PMF, to read that. It's a very simple statement where they say that, hey, like, product market fit is when you're not actually selling your product and people are buying it, right?
Yeah.
It's a sort of a different take on what is a very simple way where, instead of you trying hard to sell your product, but customers are coming to you, reaching out to you, on Facebook, on email, through word of mouth. You've already sold to a particular customer. It's growing, within the customer base. So I think PMF is, I would say, the one big problem that I would like to tell people to look at. And I just try to keep it simple. Of course, there are multiple aspects to this. I think if someone has already figured out PMF, then I think they're already in a good spot, because one,
Yeah.
capital raise is going to be much easier, and they have a very strong pipeline of customers. Then it goes to how they can scale, right? So I think that's a completely different challenge.
That's awesome. We would definitely love to have that questionnaire. I don't think that was an option at all. I think anyone who is listening as well would love to have that questionnaire. Please do share with us. I'll ensure that people get it after this webinar. And yes, one more thing which you mentioned about PMF. I think that's something we are also testing a hypothesis wherein the PMF study is not just one time. It's a thing you have to keep on testing, and it just gives you surprises every now and then. So yep, those are two nice classification shared, Sathya. I'm just gonna take this into a little more deeper cycle, wherein we initially we would say we all agree that revenue took a hit, no matter what kind of business it, whether it's a mom and pop shop or a big enterprise. The revenue did take a hit over the last 1 year. Now if we go to any stock market curve or something, we can all see the graph once again turning upwards, and we are talking about year-on-year growth and a positive net positive rate, etc. So what exactly is happening in the market? And with you being there, did the market simply do its did its trick because everything has started opening and people have started the operations in a way, or was there a catalyst included in this process to do something differently here?
I would probably, approach this, probably with examples, right? So for a lot of the B2B companies, which were a little bit more later, their revenues sort of doubled, tripled, quadrupled, right? Because everybody went online, and everybody started to look for applications and tools, and yes, it was a tough time for most of us, but I think probably a lot of SaaS companies saw a lot of exponential growth, right? But overall, how I see the market to have evolved is when the pandemic hit, I think there were certain fundamental aspects that got tested, right? So I would say brands that sort of kept their brand promise during these toughest times, right, were the ones that took off much, much faster, right? I'll give you two examples, right? One is Airbnb, right? Airbnb was planning to go public, right?
Yep.
Their revenues were growing dramatically. Everybody was happy. And then boom, pandemic hit, right? And their revenues sort of went down to close to zero, right? And think about a company which is just filed for going public, and then this happens, right? So this is
Yeah.
sort of fundamentally could change your business, or you could even be out of business in less than 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, right?
Totally.
And what Airbnb did, and I'm sure a lot of the folks here today, might have read about it, right? There was an exemplary, show of leadership, right? The founder went out there and said, "Hey, I know that it's a tough time for everybody. I know that that both people who are trying to host, guests, and people who are traveling have been badly hit. I'm going to go out there, raise some capital in debt, and make sure that everybody who paid for a booking got back their money, and for everyone who sort of kept their properties open for guests to come got paid, right?" um, and I think that was an exemplary show of leadership
Yep.
from brand promise standpoint, right? Because see, people, when Airbnb came into the market, they sort of disrupted the way that people were sort of, staying outside of hotels, right? There was no concept of staying outside of the hotels. There was just this concept of trust, of bringing in a guest into your home and sharing that place, with a complete stranger, just with pure reviews, right? So this was
Yeah.
a big change for when this happened. The company sort of showed that it was not even just expecting the trust to come from the customers and the guests, but it showed the way that it operated itself during a pandemic situation, right? By making sure that everybody got paid out and all people who booked, got back their money and so on and so forth. That was exemplary. One. The second thing is when people got laid off, I think they took even though it was definitely heartbreaking. I'm sure there was the same scenario for most of the companies globally. What they again did was made sure that folks who got laid off, they created an open database that they shared with all of their network, to sort of tell people that, hey, these people got laid off not because they didn't do well, but they are great people. Hope, wish we had money to keep them, but if you have an opening, go hire them, right? So
Yep.
I think again that was a so going back again, I want to give you an example of an exemplary, both leadership and also brand promise, right?
Yeah.
I think that was one. And again, I think it was the time where everybody, probably tried a little bit in stock markets. So I would say Delta is one of the companies that I put some money into when I was, when everything was going bad. And the only reason why I put some money into the market, and when I did in Delta, is because every time that I have traveled between India to the US, just the service was very, very good, and people, everyone in the aircraft was very happy. The employees were very happy. They always talked very, very high about the company, and I think I felt that it was a company where the employees were well taken care of, right?
Yeah.
So I think companies who generally are, companies which had a great promise, took care of, the folks who were working with them, people, who got value out of, some of these products. I think they all sort of came out of this more stronger than before. If you look at it today, Airbnb, just like 6 months into the pandemic, was rewriting to going public, and then went public as one of the biggest, IPOs, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's what I would sort of, take from it. Generally, a lot of other things, from small to mid-scale companies, a lot of them had shelved their plans of going online and having a website or having a place to, to build an external set of revenue. For example, during the pandemic, we did a small sort of event where we helped a bunch of retailers who were just brick and mortar businesses to open up and launch websites so that they can go up and running in a week. And we did that for free, just to enhance the capabilities for some of these brick and mortar businesses, which carry a huge set of brand trust from customers, right? So I think if you turn back and you ask some of these shops, hey, like, do you want to continue keeping your online presence? I would say majority of them still value it and say that yes, I would like to keep it, and I would still like to service my customers if they don't want to come on, inside the store, right? I think what happens there is now the brands have created these brick and mortar businesses specifically, right? Have created a second revenue stream that they never sort of went after, and when things started to get back to normal, they still had the second source of revenue stream and their primary source of revenue stream. So the big takeaway from that is when things like this happen, right? See, look out for the opportunity. It's tough. I'm not saying it's easy. It's tough, but build your second source of revenue stream. And because when things get back to normal, you have your primary and you have your secondary, and who knows, your secondary might overtake your primary.
True. I think there were like a lot of valuable points out there, and right from talking about Airbnb's way, brand promise, or building how Delta Airways took care of their own employees, which made you invest. I hope the investment turned out positive as well. So
I doubled it. So
wow. All right. Okay, that's a quick lesson for all of us. But yeah, and finally on whatever you have just put together, that was like absolutely amazing. Sathya, that was like well put. And this is exactly what I was looking forward to in the conversation as well. Taking it up ahead, this is like hashtag asking for a friend, you can say. Did you, or any one of the companies, you have invested in, did you guys buy any new software during for communication or infrastructure development during the last 1 year? I mean, this to us, just to understand like how exactly did the operational process went ahead with?
So I'm going to give you a biased and a non-biased two tools. One is biased and the other one is non-biased. One is biased because I've invested in them, and the other one is, that's a disclaimer, and the other one is a non-biased one, right? So I started using Notion a lot. I was never a user of Notion before that. Of course, I saw a lot of my colleagues use it, but I was never a power user of Notion. I was more collaborative on Google Docs, and I was, working on it. I felt that Notion was a lot more powerful, from a collaborative perspective. I could sort of collaborate across the team, create multiple sort of, action points across the teams. I could, create, deliverables, deadlines. I could, sort of control my entire pipeline from a single place. I could look at what was coming up, in the next few weeks, and what I needed to get prepared for. I felt Notion overall was a very powerful tool. I underestimated, the value of Notion until I started using it. And now I would say I would spend about 25% of my time today using Notion. So that's one, tool. And the other one that I would say is CoMake. And of course, as I said, CoMake is an investment that we did with First Round Capital and, Dom Fund as already existing investors in the company. The reason why we invested, with CoMake is just because, you need a single command dashboard that oversees everything, right? So today, let's say, we're looking at a pipeline of, say, 100 companies to invest. And let's say that, data is coming in from all these 100 companies in 100 different formats, right? So someone is sending on email, someone is sending a Dropbox, someone is sending it, through to our analyst, and then the analyst is forwarding it to us. Someone might have sent a PDF on WhatsApp to our analyst, and he's sending it to us. So data is spread across different applications and tools today, and you work across multiple such projects, right? So think about 100 companies into two different streams through which the data is coming. So you're already talking about 200. You got to get to 200 different sources to get access to information, right? Which seems alarming, right? And if you look at it, study says that there is about anywhere upwards of 100 plus different applications that are being installed by SMB companies today, which means take your Google for Business into account. It could be Google for Business or Microsoft Teams. It could be Zoom. It could be Blue Jeans. It could be your CRM systems. It could be your financial management systems. So think about the enormity of the different tools that are out there, and the different, not just tools that your company is using, but let's say that you're collaborating with somebody else. All of them use other tools and applications that suit them. So this seemed to be a big enough problem for most of the folks out there. So we invested with Comake, which was basically helping you be more productive in organizing across projects, teams, and people. So they have this really nice dashboard where I could share with my analyst or my associate, or I could share it with the founder themselves. Let's say that we are doing due diligence, across different browser tabs. We are able to sort of record it, and not be worried to close the tabs because it's already saved. So things like that. So these are the two applications that I would say has been I've been a power user on.
Awesome. I've been a power user of Notion myself, for the past almost like 1.5 years. And, I've been asking our team as well in order to get Vmaker into Notion, some sort of native integration. So, it just get all in one. But I'm pretty sure people are going to go and check out Comic. I'm going to do that after this. And I'll probably, give it a try as well. Nice to know that, Sathya. Okay, so I'm gonna tease you a little in this because this right now is probably the talk of the town, and remote versus in office versus hybrid. What's your pick, and what are your thoughts behind these three models going forward?
I'm a big fan of the hybrid. I think some social interactions, some social in-person interactions are always very important. I think also the out of office at home has increased productivity for most of us. And I think a good mix between these two would be a good winner.
Got it. I think I should have removed that. People always pick that hybrid option. Next time I should be asking just like remote versus an office then.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's my answer was not to be not controversial. My answer is more, I would say it's more authentic because of the fact that I saw best of both sides, right? I honestly did. And I think got a good time to spend time with, be at home and be with family, and still do 1.5 times, productivity, hacks when you're at home. So, but at the same time, I did miss sort of spending time with our colleagues and with our partners. So where I think one good aspect of that as well, I think the reason why I felt hybrid probably becomes more popular with a lot of people is, see, I think that there is a cultural aspect that was missing at work, right? You got to know most of your colleagues as just individuals at work, and probably go out, grab a beer, and know them as just individuals, right? You never got to know your family, their family, or their dog, or everything around them, right? I think initially there were a lot of companies which are were very uptight about how they want to run these meetings. But I think eventually everybody got to the fact that, hey, he could be working with you, but it's just not him. He's staying with his family. You get to see their kids sometimes. You could hear the dogs barking. You could hear someone. When you take a morning call, you could hear people making their tea, everything, right?
Yep.
So I think that was an angle that we never sort of felt or experienced with our colleagues. I think it gave that social element was a very strong element.
Perfect. Given a choice, I would definitely go with hybrid as well. But then, I just wanted to see how far can I get you, to the edge. Okay, so this is another concept, which was widely talked about, and might actually continue. It just brought the world a lot closer, this pandemic, and that's the reality. So, did you hire any new people during the last 1 year? How was the virtual hiring process like? And I'm more interested in listening. Like, did you also hire anybody on the top level? Probably on a fellow VC level, something like that. Did anything like that happen?
Actually, we hired our chief product officer during that time,
Wow. Okay.
and it was a pretty interesting experience, because, of course, like, we were looking for someone, at a very senior level, and there were some senior folks, who unfortunately got laid off during that time. Uh, and for us, I think, what I made sure was to spend enough time, on calls, with our CPO, and just because to understand, multiple different angles, right? One is, okay, of course, the professional, sort of angle. Then, sort of understand, from an attitude perspective, right? How do you sort of get along, right? And it's a very tough thing to sort of, to look at.
Yeah,
And I think there is no shortcut to it. Only time could say. But I think what you got to go down to is fundamentals, right? Why are you hiring this person? How important is this job to the company? What can this person fail at, and can you sort of find those loopholes, right? And beyond that, if you're still convinced, I think you should go and hire. And I think today, being in a remote environment, I would say, is definitely, is a powerful weapon, because now you can definitely hire people from anywhere, in the world, right?
that's
So
perfect.
I would definitely say, the other side of our business, which my partner takes care of, has been continuously hiring through this pandemic. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to put, people in touch if they're looking for something. But I think, now companies are hiring, startups are hiring, everybody's hiring. So I think the virtual process has been interesting, but honestly, I don't think so it's a big difference. I think what is so different is once they come into the company, right?
Hmm.
How can you make sure that the culture, is disseminated to them, and how can you make sure that they feel that they are also a part of a bigger family, because they've never met you in person.
That's true.
Like, the first time that I met my CPO after 8 months after, we hired him, he said, "Hey, Satya, you look much taller than I thought." Right? So yeah, I think, it's really, those are the things that, I would say, just stick to the fundamentals, right? Think about, uh, pretty much whether this person comes in or not. I think you can figure out, how to bring in, global talent, but figure out post that, can you ensure that the culture is disseminated to this new person who's joined your family.
Awesome. Perfect, Satya. I think definitely, basically, getting them, hiring them is one part, but then, onboarding them is the entire part about, them getting into the part of new culture. And as we speak about that, Ranga is texting on the chat as well. He felt the same way. I'm actually 6'2", and the moment he saw that, this was his reaction as well. Why are you 6'2", something like that. And by the way, before we move to the next question, people who have joined with us, thanks a lot. We have got an exclusive offer for you for sticking on with us. I just screwed up the message last time, but this time I've just sent it to both panelists and attendees now. So yep, you guys can use that code to check your exclusive offer and then redeem it later on as well. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Keep staying, and we have a few more interesting insights to share later on as well. Let me just move on to my next question. So right now, I would say, what happened over last year, it has been a great learning for all of us. And we shared this even during our initial discussion as well, how people are comparing this with the 2008 recession, and things like that, the bubble and all those concepts were there. Basically, what exactly has this taught us? And if at all a similar situation arises, god forbid not due to a pandemic, but then the economy is something that goes up and down all the time. And what would be your advice as an investor to companies you work with in situations like this to avoid, at least to sustain in the future?
Yeah, I think something that we have, fundamentally seen, whether it has been this pandemic or if you read about everything that happened in '08 to 10, right? Uh, so most of the companies which are sort of on a high growth mode, right, which is for a lot of these startups, they never spend time in optimizing it, their growth, right? They sort of want to try multiple experiments, which I think is very very important for their growth. They should keep doing it, but I think if they can spend uh, after probably do a retrospect every 6 months, every 12 months, look at what is our sort of what sort of our uh, I would say a lot of the companies try to go beyond their core business or their core moat, and they do try ancillary sort of services or products which might not fit into their core business. And when such things, when a pandemic hits, or when the economic situation is not so good, they generally end up having to cut that division out as their first sort of reaction, right? So if you look at it, most of companies today post pandemic did the same thing. They went in and said, okay, whatever is not our core business, we're going to shut it down, right? Because they
Yep.
know that that's what is bringing is the bread and butter of the business, right? Of course, I'm not. This is not to discourage founders to trying new things and sort of building out, enough sort of experiments. I highly encourage them to do it. What I'm telling is, when you are in this journey of growth, right? Uh, try to spend once in 6 or 12 months to sit down and figure out where could you have optimized cost. I think generally
Yeah.
that question never comes in picture. I would say a lot of us, even in the VC ecosystem, necessarily don't look at it because we are all going after growth. But
Yep.
situations like this sort of force us to think about it.
Think a continuous feedback loop on optimizing operation cost. That's how I would term it if I get a chance. But yeah, that's a pretty valid point. We focus too much on growth. We just don't focus on optimizing the current process, and maybe just saving one part of the process might actually help us boost growth as well in the overall revenue numbers. Who knows? Perfect, Sathya. So all right, let me just move on to the next one. So, what has been the market scenario of late? The reason why I'm asking this is we have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs joining us today as well, and they, some of them are maybe are in their startup right now. Some of them are looking to raise venture at this point of time. So, what is the scenario like, and what is your advice for people who are in this stage right now?
I would say two things, right? I would say it's the best time to be a SaaS entrepreneur, uh,
Okay.
because I think the next 10 years there's going to be a lot of SaaS applications and SaaS tools that are going to B2B SaaS enterprise software that is going to disrupt the market. Just because it took a long time for companies to move to the cloud, and today everybody's on the cloud, so applications get launched much faster. It makes a lot more sense to pay per use than to pay per software, per year. And everybody's gonna, go towards it. The market has been proven. The current SaaS revenues, even though there is a lot of companies out there, just constitute 20% of the overall enterprise software spend. 80% is still, sort of not disrupted yet. Companies like Freshworks, today have, of course, again, Girish Mathraputham is an LP of our fund. I think he has done a fantastic job in disrupting the CRM space,
Yep.
and also other allied products. But I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. So there is a lot more to do. I think it's a great time to be a SaaS entrepreneur. And I would encourage everybody who has an idea, who wants to go for it, should go for it. And yeah, I think, from a market scenario standpoint, I would say, uh, investors are back. Have as I said, the first quarter of 2020 was much slower, but things
Mhm.
started to pick up very, very fast. And today, everybody's doing deals. The deal flow volumes are the same. VCs are, generally, investing, as how they used to do before. So, go for it is what I would say.
Awesome. I think we had a perfect loop there. It started off with how exactly VCs rewrote their revamped their playbook and went all remote, just like how all the other companies or other part of businesses did. And finally, we're at the same stage where we're all set and we are ready with the new playbook to go ahead and hit the market again. So that's awesome, Satya. And you heard him, guys, loud and clear. SAS has a bright future there, and just go for the win and go for winning big. Awesome, Jitya. I think we had a very nice conversation over the last few minutes. I think there was like exactly 45 minutes as planned, and let's just answer some questions quickly. Okay, let me just read them out to you. Some of them are in chat, some of them are in Q&A. Just give me a sec. Okay, so the first question, of course, it is from Ranga. He's been edging to ask you this. Did you fund any new startups during the pandemic?
I think three of the companies are public. One company is yet to sort of be public, probably next week. But all our four companies from our newest fund has been through the pandemic from the last 3 months. So, and I should say, I haven't met any of these founders in person.
Wow. Okay, that is a surprising news, and that is kind of an assuring news for most who are listening to as well. So the next question, this is something I got from LinkedIn, and the question was, in spite of all the chaos going on, startups still have a pretty long hiring cycle. How do you see that, especially a startup which is looking to grow fast? That is the culture we are built with, right? And in spite of that, it seems like the hiring cycle is pretty long, and I sort of agree with him on that as well. How do you see it? Maybe is it because they want to find the right fit, or is it something else?
Would you say it specifically during this period, or
I would try to get a general perspective on that instead of saying it this period.
Yeah, sure. So I think, I would say that, I would be pleasantly surprised because of two reasons. I'll tell you why. Because I think today, if you ask me the same question 5 years ago, I would definitely second that, and I would give you some thoughts around how you can sort of stand out. But I think today, I would say a lot of folks like us, you and me, and anyone, for that matter, if you find a good startup and you sort of connect with the entrepreneur, you are ready to sort of take a jump, right? uh, I think one thing that sort of goes back to is the brand promise again, right? I
Yeah,
think, again, whenever the market sort of goes down, right, everybody looks up to the entrepreneur to sort of set a or be a role model, right? uh,
yeah,
and they want to sort of see that before they can, because I do understand that when people decide to join your startup, right, they are sort of writing off all their other opportunities, and they're putting their entire time and effort into the startup that you're building, right? So I
true.
think what they are generally probably looking for is how authentic and how supportive can you be during the most toughest times. So if
Yeah,
you can show that, and I'm sure a lot of them have these stories from the last 1 year, I think that is a lot of relief for most of the folks who are trying to join a very early startup. So I would say that. The other thing is, I think some of the early hires end up being word of mouth companies, like have your existing folks to sort of send you some referrals. I would say I've always had some of the best folks, people that I've known or gotten to know through another person to join the company, have really worked out really, really well. And surprisingly enough, some of them wouldn't have fit the role 100%. They would have been an 80%, but they ended up being some of the best hires. So I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. The culture fit is something every startup looks for, especially during the initial hires, because it is going to be really crucial. The first 20 people, they make or break your company, is what they say. Thanks for that, Sathya. So we have another question here from Santosh, and he has. I mean, this is an interesting question as well, because this is an industry that literally boomed, during the last 1 year. It's basically edtech. And we have seen enough advertisements already with them. I want to hear from you as well. But how do you see the opportunity in the edtech space? Has it become too crowded already?
I, I think so. This is my take on this. Take it with a pinch of salt because I am not looking at it on a day-to-day basis.
Got
Uh,
it.
you know, I think, in my opinion, it is getting crowded. The only thing that I would sort of uh, tell folks, again, the market is huge, right? So when you
Yeah,
look at it just from a TAM perspective, it can be huge, right? But again, I would go back to the same thing. I would go back to the fact that, okay, speak with folks and understand what options do they have today, right? Are they happy with those options, or are they not happy with those options? Are they something that they feel is a missing gap in the current market that you could sort of fill? Then go for it, right? And even when I say you feel that there is an opportunity or a gap, for example, right? Can you be 10 times better than your existing competition, right?
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
then go for it, right? If you can be 1.5 times better than your competition, don't go for it, right? Again, I'm
yeah,
not discouraging people from starting up, but I think I want all entrepreneurs to be successful. So and I think the biggest thing here is to build enough moat and differentiation, right, for your product. So if you can find that piece very, very well, and people resonate with that, right, then you really do have a chance, right? So you got to figure out how to stay away from the noise, and you got to do it very, very well. And I think, like, generally, the advice that I give uh, people entering competitive, overcrowded, sudden boom in a certain space, I would only tell people that, hey, just make sure that you're 10 times better than your competition. uh,
yeah.
then you will stand out.
Perfect. I think it's not just about finding that white space, but also understanding why exactly is there a white space and how exactly I'm going to tap into that white space. That really matters more than just finding it out. Santosh, I hope that answers your question there. But yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. He just had told you, but he's given you an outline of how to approach it as well. So the next question, obviously, we have is we spoke about Airbnb trying to go public, and then what happened there. On the other hand, Zoom Info actually went public during the pandemic, and they had a pretty successful launch of their IPO as well. So, the overall question is, did B2B industries or companies have an edge over B2C during this pandemic?
I think it was just the need, right? It was not an edge. I think these are two completely different sectors.
Mm,
I would say that there was just a normal curve towards digitization, and companies going online and sort of being available online, and sort of being able to serve customers online. And that curve was much slower, and COVID was just a catalyst to make that happen much faster. So because of which the demand rose much higher than what supply was there, or there were some clear winners like Zoom, which was in the market, have built product for a very, very long time, figured
yeah,
out how to sort of make sure that 100 people can join a particular link, and you could have an undisrupted conversation, right? Sort of mastered the piece of noise cancellation, and etc., right? So I think it's all about. I wouldn't compare it. Of course, just on a B2B standpoint, I would just say that the demand just rose, massively. So, and I think we are already seeing a lot of other B2C companies coming back up and a lot
Yeah.
of new companies have popped up very recently. So in the last, I would say in the last 5 months, I would say B2C activity, is nearly back to normal in most of the cases.
Awesome. We have one more follow-up question from Santosh, and I think it's pretty interesting. So I'm just going to take it, and probably we'll close that with the same. Two important elements to look at before going to an investor. He has said two, but I'm just going to keep it open. What are some of the important things we should be looking at before probably if I'm going to pitch to you tomorrow with my own startup, then what are the things you would be expecting, and what are the ways you would be evaluating my startup?
So I'll give it to you from my perspective, right? And again,
Yeah.
I'll give it to you from the weekend fund perspective, right? If you look at it, and that's the reason why we put it up in the website as well. We said that, hey, we look at founder market fit, right? So we look to see what that means is, hey, have you worked in a certain industry before? Have you felt that problem before yourself? Have you been the potential or have you been the potential user of this particular product before, right? And do you have enough insights about this industry, right? Do you understand something better than what most people understand from outside, right? So then that there is a good founder market fit, right? I think that is one of the most important aspects for any pre-seed investment, right? And pre-seed and seed, when we are doing these companies, there's pretty much nothing to see apart from the fact that, okay, you have a great idea, and you want to go for it, right? Again, the company that that we're going to announce probably next week, is pretty much a company which is pre-product, for example. Generally, we don't generally do pre-product, but we did
Got it.
pre-product just because of the fact that the founder comes from such domain knowledge, and they have sort of solved for the same problem in their current company, and they have saved that company a lot of money, right?
Wow.
Which
Okay.
got spun off as a new startup, and he's building it out, right? So yeah, I think I would say founder market fit is sort of very, very important in my perspective. I would also say, do you sort of, again, I would also put the cultural aspect of, if you're pitching VCAN as a fund, we also look at, is there a similarity in our principles, right? We do believe that this is a long game.
Yeah.
No, it's not like, okay, we put the capital in and we are out tomorrow. We are in it for the long haul. Some of the companies go on to raise more capital. Some of the companies, might not. And it's a tough journey for us and for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that we build that, the company with the startup, right, with the founder. So we do look for sort of, similar fundamentals or similar principles that the entrepreneur operates in, right? Is the entrepreneur scrappy to sort of try new things? Is the entrepreneur sort of looks to take inputs, right? Whether you take it or not as an implementation is another question, right? Can we have
Yeah.
a more productive discussion around, hey, this doesn't sound right, I've seen this in two other companies fail, tell me what am I missing here, right? And can we have that constructive conversation with the entrepreneur or not, right? So I think the founder fund fit is sort of also relatively important. And then overall, I would also say the market size. I think a lot of people talk about saying that, hey, the market size, a lot of the funds want big market sizes, and that's when they invest and all of that. I would say micro funds like us are okay with smaller market sizes as well. But if you can sort of truly, go out there and sort of, own that market space, then yeah, sure, why not? So I would say these are the three major things that I would, put as, something that we look for.
Thanks. Thanks, Satya, and special thanks to Santosh actually for adding that nice question. Because I feel like we sort of broke some myths during this conversation. At least personally for me I would say, and I can speak for some of the audience as well here, because whenever people think about going to a VC for funding, they just start painting graphs and numbers in their mind. That's the usual stuff that comes in. But we spoke about a lot today, starting from how a culture fit matters, the rapport matters, the openness to feedback matters, and most importantly, the domain knowledge. What exactly are you doing, and how good are you? How well do you know your own stuff, what you're doing? All those things matter. Before we start talking about those numbers, of course, I know they do matter, but there are these predecessors which we have to look into as well. So. Thanks a lot, Sathya, for sharing all those things today. I sort of felt like, has been a candid conversation so far. I hope that was the same for you as well.
Yeah, pleasure. It was great talking to you. Ranga, thank you so much as well for making the intro. Hope, it was useful. And yeah, let's, look forward to staying in touch.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Satya. And thank you guys, everyone, for joining in. I'm pretty sure you guys have, okay, we still have a lot of questions coming in. But yep, Jervin will be there in your email inbox soon. He'll be sharing the links to join our groups community, wherein you can post these questions and we'll try to get it answered. And hopefully, Satya, we host you soon again in another show as well. Until then, thanks once again for joining us. And yep, thanks for making it an awesome webinar once again.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Cheers, guys. Thank you.